Hey guys.
How's it going?
Howdy.
Good. So that sounded great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Before I get into everything, like your touring and your new album, just talk to me a little bit about the two songs that you played, because they sounded kick-ass.
Cool.
Well, the Love's Fire was the first song we wrote for a record that we released about a month ago now, and that song's been out for like 6-ish months. It was our, wow, Jesus. It was our first single. And then Inch Rope was our second single, and I guess it's been floating around for a couple months now, but they're both the lead singles off the most recent record.
Cool. And what is the songwriting process for you guys, or just the music process for you? I mean, each one throws their little stamp on it.
It's different. It seems like it's been a lot different in this record cycle. The first record that we wrote about 2 years ago, one of us would write a song, bring it to the band kind of in incompleted form, and say, you know, what do you want to like add on top of this, basically, but like keep it as it is, you know. And so for this record, we really started from the very beginning writing everything as a band, and so when any of us had an idea or a lyric or a melody, we would bring it to the band and we kind of build it from the ground up. So this process was a lot more I guess unified as a band, and it also made it a lot more difficult because, you know, we all have differing opinions most of the time, and so, you know, there's a lot of push and pull on songs, but you know, we always say that in the end the song ended up much better than it would have been had we just tried to finish it on our own. So that's kind of the songwriting process for us. It's different every time, I feel like, but
yeah.
Do you guys all know what each other's going to say at a particular time? I mean, you've been together for 3 years. Do you guys, you kind of have a pulse of how everyone's going to be, right? Like going into this, like if they're in a shitty mood or if they're, you know, just not feeling something.
We're very aware of, especially in songwriting too, because like you could have this great idea and it's like, all right, well, I have this amazing idea, but I got to make sure that I present it in a way where it's packaged so that like I don't like show Taylor like, hey, do you like this chorus? And he's like, oh, it doesn't really sound like a completed idea. And he's just like, well, it wasn't a completed idea. So, you know.
You gotta find the right time. You can't just like send out like an iPhone memo like in the middle of the night and then be offended when nobody responds.
Yeah. You gotta pick your spots too, I would think, right?
So. Yeah, being a democracy as a band is difficult because everyone feels like, or everyone has equal say, and what that results in is like when someone feels like they're not being heard, it gets hard. And that, you know, that's where a lot of our conflict comes from as a band, is in those moments. But working through that is what makes our songs stronger than if we were to just write them as an individual. At least we think so.
I feel like we've gotten a lot stronger as a band doing that. And like through this whole process, we've learned how to communicate a lot better and create together a lot better. And it was a growing period for us too. It was great, you know. And now we can bring ideas to each other, and we can like see through filters of like, you know, incompletion. It's good.
And this really, I mean, was this album, making this album like kind of the slow build to get to this point, or were you guys always like this?
Do you mean songwriting wise?
Yeah, or just, I mean, anything.
Well,
you know?
yeah, so I'll describe the album a little bit. It's interesting. I mean, about a year ago, our previous record really started taking off. We had a placement on 2 or 3 different TV shows, and then and like one of the shows, the song ended up going to like top of the iTunes charts, which was really cool. And from there, we had like a song in a film trailer, and we were featured on the NFL like playoff promo commercial and stuff. And so from there, everything just kind of started taking off. And this was as we were writing our last record, and so for the first time, we kind of felt a pressure of like, okay, well now people know who we are, you know, and they know us by a certain sound, but at the same time we were kind of, our sound was evolving, and so I think that whole process was just growing pains, but at the same time it was really interesting to go from releasing a record that people knew about locally, but, you know, to being on a national scale, and we're still trying to get our name out there, but that's kind of where we are now, I think. You know, I mean, now we're writing, and more people have found out about the new record, and so, which just released about a month ago, and so.
I think that we tried to defy our fans' expectations with this record too. You know, we didn't want to write the same record, even though, you know, Violent Flame got some hype. I think we wanted to give our fans something different, you know, and we had certain, you know, not expectations, but, you know, ideas that were completely different than a Violent Flame. for this record. And I think that was huge for this.
The new record is called Cathedrals of Color, by the way.
Yeah.
So.
It is. I mean, it's an interesting name for an album. I mean, I hate to be the 50,000th journalist to be like, oh, album title.
No.
What's it about? What is it all about?
It would be.
You'd be the 50,000 journalists if you just say, well, Courier, explain the band name. How'd you get your band name?
I'm not even going there.
Thanks,
Yeah.
No, it would be frustrating if it was just like some random band name or some random album title that we just threw out there. But really, the cool thing about it was we started writing all these songs and they all had this cathedral imagery. Choirs. We have a song called Stained Glass Window, and what was so weird is that image, that lyric popped up in a couple different songs on the record, and so that kind of started to be the motif of the entire record. And then we realized that all the songs we were writing about were really about home and finding the place where you belong and being away from home and missing home and that sort of thing. So Cathedrals of Color started to be this motif of home for us, and so it actually ended up being a pretty cool symbolic thing for us.
I think that lyric that Austin wrote in the actual title track, Cathedrals of Color and World Black and White, kind of really brought the whole...
Well, I didn't write that, but...
You didn't write that? Or you wrote that?
I wrote that. Thanks
wow.
for giving my credit away.
Oh,
Just
I
kidding.
Austin wrote that.
Yeah.
Well,
You were way off.
proof that we write together.
Yeah.
No, I want this to take to a fight right now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sit back and wait to
brawl.
see what happens. It is funny though with album titles. I don't think everyone kind of asks oh, what's the meaning? But I would think it's pretty hard to kind of write all your songs, get them to a place that you're really happy with, and then be like, oh, okay, we have to name everything we just worked on. I would think that's pretty hard.
Well, it's funny, as we extensively demo everything, and as it's being demoed and fleshed out, we rarely ever name it properly because it's kind of hard. There's a couple songs, Love is Fire, which we played, was so easy to name because you say Love is Fire a million times, so it's well, you gotta call it that. But, there's a lot of tracks that had names on it that definitely didn't stick. Like
Worst Idea 55.
Yeah. Cathedrals of Color, for instance, was...
Paris in the
Fall was the working title for it for forever. And, the album, I don't think we had any idea what we were going to call it for quite some time until that lyric kept coming up, and then we're like, duh, gotta call it that.
Right.
And so the titles really come organically for the most part. And we're not one of those bands like Sufjan Stevens or something that's trying to put a title on it that outlives the creativity of the song itself. We want people to be able to hear the song and say, what's that called? It's probably called Inch of Rope.
Got it.
Not to knock Sufjan, though.
Yeah, Sufjan's brilliant, but...
He's doing his own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
The album title wasn't that difficult for this one. It was, we kind of avoided it because it was the hardest part of the Violent Flame was naming the album, but... it was I think Philip threw out that title, and then the song was written after that.
Yeah.
It was the first one, it just made sense.
Mm-hmm.
That was an interesting one because I had written that lyric into another song, and then I thought, hey, it would be really cool, after we realized all these songs were about home, I was like, it would be really cool to write that title as a title track to the album about that idea of home, and somehow that idea actually worked, and so that was random.
Yeah, it's really easy and pleasant.
Yeah.
Also,
The next one's going to be miserable, though, I'm sure.
Well, it's interesting. I never thought about this either, but Cathedrals of Color was originally written not literally a cathedral at all. It was written about the city, the actual title, Cathedrals of Color. Yeah, it was written about New York City, walking through New York City and seeing these massive cathedral-esque neon-lit buildings. So I guess you can say that it organically evolved to be other things as well. Represent a lot more to us than just...
It's way deeper than you would ever...
Yeah.
you don't even
understand. You blew my mind. I'm just...
you wouldn't understand.
I don't even know where I am right now.
So deep, man.
We're actually releasing Cliff's Notes version of the album.
Seriously. No one does that, right? Just you know what else no one does? No one covers interviews.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
I would like to get someone to cover this interview. And see how it goes.
Yeah.
right?
I don't know what that means.
Cover as a
No, you get another band, like you have a transcript of how this interview went. Someone's
just
playing
act it
me,
out,
and
yeah.
no one covers
Yeah.
interviews.
That'd
Probably
be
for a
fun.
good
We're at a
reason.
music school. We could probably get some.
I'm gonna hire
Some kids.
I'm gonna hire Springsteen to play me. Actually.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
he'll be
Kathy
a lot
Griffin
more-
for me, just for the hell of it. Just mix it up a little bit, you know,
Kathy.
since she's more masculine than I am.
God.
Cool guys, and you're on the road, right? For a little bit
for
more.
another week or so. Yeah, I guess another week, and we've been on the road for a couple weeks now already, and we'll be back on the road very, very soon. So
Yeah.
probably late summer.
Cool. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah,
for having
thank
us.
you.